photos that set the internet on fire. Scottie Pippen survived decades of championship pressure, but nothing prepared him for the storm created by one public appearance. At 60, the six-time NBA champion was reportedly seen beside a 20-year-old woman, and within hours, the internet turned their photos into a courtroom. Sports pages reposted the images. Celebrity blogs dissected every detail. Fans argued over the age gap, the timing, and whether Pippen was simply living his life or sending a message. But the most explosive detail was not only who stood beside him, it was when the appearance allegedly happened on Larsa Pippen's birthday. That timing changed everything. To some, it looked like coincidence. To others, it felt like an answer to years of headlines surrounding Larsa's relationships with younger men, including Marcus Jordan. Suddenly, the story was no longer just about romance. It became a debate about pride, celebrity image, and one question the internet could not stop asking. Are Scottie and Larsa being judged by the same standard? Pippen has not publicly confirmed the relationship, and the woman beside him has not explained what the photos mean. Still, their silence only made the story louder. Every smile and camera angle became evidence for a theory nobody could prove. Behind the controversy is a man who has spent much of his life beside someone else's spotlight. First, Michael Jordan, then a highly public marriage, then years of arguments over his legacy. Now, intentionally or not, Scottie appears to be controlling the conversation without saying a word. And this is only the beginning, because the deeper story involves fame, divorce, grief, double standards, and a legendary athlete trying to write a new chapter on his own terms. Where are you watching from today? Subscribe to the channel and comment 1 if Scottie deserves to live without public judgment, or comment 2 if you believe the age gap raises serious question. The legend behind the headlines: long before Scottie Pippen became the center of a celebrity firestorm, he was one of basketball's most unlikely success stories. Raised in Hamburg, Arkansas, as the youngest of 12 children, he was not a national high school star or a player. Major programs were fighting to recruit. At the University of Central Arkansas, Pippen began as a walk-on and even helped with team equipment before earning a real opportunity. Then he grew taller, stronger, and more skilled. By the time the Chicago Bulls acquired him in the 1987 NBA draft, the overlooked kid from Arkansas had transformed into a player capable of changing a franchise. That journey matters because Scottie's career was built on patience, sacrifice, and proving people wrong. Beside Michael Jordan, he won 6 championships and became one of the most versatile defenders the league had ever seen. He could guard multiple positions, create offense, run the floor, and take control when Jordan was unavailable. Yet even at the height of the Bulls dynasty, Pippen was often described as the supporting star. Jordan received the brightest spotlight, while Scottie's value was treated like part of the background. That image followed him for years, essential and respected, but rarely presented as the main character. Now every camera is pointed directly at him. The conversation is no longer about what he did for Jordan or where he ranks among the greatest players ever. It is about a choice in his private life and the message people believe that choice sends. That is why the controversy cuts deeper than ordinary gossip. Scottie spent decades being defined through other people. This time, whether the public approves or not, he appears determined to define himself. The marriage the public could not ignore. For more than 2 decades, Scottie and Larsa Pippen were one of basketball's most recognizable couples. They married in 1997, raised 4 children, and built a life surrounded by wealth, fame, and constant attention. From the outside, they appeared to have everything: a legendary NBA name, a glamorous lifestyle, and a family connected to one of sport's greatest dynasties. But public images rarely reveal the whole truth. Over time, reports of tension followed the marriage. There were separations, attempts at reconciliation, and repeated signs that the relationship had become difficult. Scottie filed for divorce in 2016. The couple later tried to repair things, and Larsa filed again in 2018. Their divorce was completed in 2021. The breakup did not end public interest. It intensified it. Larsa built a visible life through reality television, social media, interviews, and celebrity appearances. She was no longer introduced only as Scottie Pippen's wife. She became a public figure with her own audience, and interest grew around the people she dated afterward. The most controversial relationship involved Marcus Jordan, Michael Jordan's son. Fans could not separate it from basketball history. Scottie had spent his greatest years beside Michael, and now his former wife was publicly dating Michael's son. To many observers, it felt like an emotional collision between 2 famous families. That relationship ended, but its effect remained. It changed how people interpreted Scottie's silence and every sign that he might be moving forward. That history is why the new photographs created such a reaction. Fans did not see only a 60-year Old man beside a younger woman. They saw an ex-husband who had watched his former marriage, his former teammate, and his private pain become entertainment. Suddenly, some believe Scottie was answering years of headlines without giving a single interview, a public debut, or a carefully timed message. The photographs might have disappeared after one news cycle if the timing had been ordinary. But according to the stories circulating online, Scottie's appearance with the young woman happened on Larsa Pippen's birthday. That detail turned curiosity into full-scale speculation. Fans immediately asked whether the date had been chosen deliberately. Was it a coincidence? Was it a private outing that happened to become public? Or was Scottie making the most visible statement possible after years of watching Larsa's relationships dominate celebrity coverage? No confirmed answer has emerged. Scottie has not explained the appearance, and the woman beside him has not publicly defined their relationship. Still, the images carried a confidence many viewers interpreted as intentional. To commentators, it looked less like an accidental sighting and more like a hard launch. That interpretation gave the story its sharpest edge. A debut on an ex-wife's birthday can appear to say something entirely different. People saw symbolism, a man reclaiming attention, proving he had moved on, or responding to the public way his former wife rebuilt her romantic life. But perception is not proof. The internet often takes a few photographs, fills in the missing details, and turns speculation into certainty. A dramatic theory can travel faster than the truth. Scottie's silence only strengthened the mystery. He did not deny the rumors, confirm them, or challenge theories about the timing. He simply allowed the moment to exist. It may have been accidental, it may have been strategic, it may have been two adults attending an event together. Yet, in celebrity culture, silence can function like a statement, and the message many people received was clear. Scottie was no longer standing in the background of someone else's story. The double standard dividing the internet. Once the age difference became the center of attention, the conversation split into two camps. One side argued that Scottie Pippen was being judged more harshly than Larsa had been when she dated younger men. The other insisted that a 4-0-year gap raises serious questions about maturity, influence, and power. Supporters pointed to the reaction surrounding Larsa and Marcus Jordan. Their relationship faced criticism, but some framed it as independence. A woman moving forward after divorce without letting age control her choices. When Scottie appeared beside a 20-year-old woman, the tone felt different. Instead of empowerment, many comments focused on whether the relationship was appropriate. Instead of celebrating freedom, people questioned motives. To Scottie's defenders, the contrast looked like a clear double standard. Critics responded that not every age gap relationship carries the same circumstances. Scottie's fame, wealth, and life experience could create a more complicated balance of power. Concern, they argued, does not automatically equal hypocrisy. People want adults to have the freedom to make private choices. At the same time, age, money, influence, and experience can shape a relationship in ways photographs cannot reveal. The truth is more complicated than a viral comment section. If people believe large age gaps are troubling, should that concern apply regardless of gender? If they believe consenting adults deserve privacy, should that principle also apply equally? The controversy exposed how quickly society changes its language depending on who is involved. One person is called confident, another is called reckless. One is praised for moving on, another is told to explain himself. Through it all, the two people in the photographs stayed mostly silent, while strangers built an entire moral trial around the pain behind Scottie's silence. To understand why Scottie Pippen may no longer feel compelled to answer every rumor, it is necessary to look beyond the headlines and into the losses that reshaped his life. In April 2021, Scottie's eldest son, Antron Pippen, died at the age of 33. Antron had dealt with asthma throughout his life, affecting his basketball path despite his talent. Scottie later spoke with pride about his son's strength. The loss of a child changes the scale of everything. Arguments that once seemed important can suddenly feel empty. Public approval becomes less valuable. Time becomes more urgent. Grief often makes people protect their energy and choose what deserves a response. Scottie had already lived through a painful divorce, years of scrutiny, and constant arguments about whether he received enough credit for the Bulls dynasty. His memoir reopened old tensions with Michael Jordan and revealed how often he felt overlooked. Then came the loss no parent should have to endure. Seen through that lens, Scottie's silence may not be fear or embarrassment. It may be the decision of someone who learned that not every opinion deserves an answer. He has faced events far more serious than internet jokes or celebrity speculation. It proves nothing about the relationship, but it adds humanity to a story social media treats like a game. Scottie is not only a 6-time champion or a famous ex-husband, he is a father who experienced devastating grief A retired athlete, still negotiating his identity, and a man entering a new phase of life under the same spotlight that followed him during his prime. Perhaps that is why he has chosen presence over explanation. After decades of being analyzed by others, he may have decided that peace does not require public permission. The woman everyone wants to identify. The young woman beside Scottie became the most searched for figure in the story almost immediately. Viewers studied every image, entertainment pages, repeated descriptions of her appearance, and speculation about her identity spread faster than verified information. She was described as poised, glamorous, and comfortable in front of the cameras. Her confidence became part of the mystery. The photograph showed someone who seemed aware of the moment and unbothered by the reaction. That confidence encouraged people to invent a biography before reliable details were available. Some assumed she was a model. Others guessed she was a social media personality. Theories multiplied, but the basic facts remained limited. No joint interview followed. No formal announcement explained how the two met, how long they had known each other, or what their connection actually was. That missing information matters. Online storytelling rewards certainty, even when certainty does not exist. A rumor becomes a headline, then a narrative audiences begin treating as fact. In this case, the public knows Scottie appeared with a much younger woman and that the images generated enormous attention. Beyond that, much of the story has been built through interpretation. The woman herself has also been reduced to a symbol. To some, she represents Scottie's new beginning. To others, she represents uncomfortable questions raised by the age gap. To commentators, she became the key to a dramatic confrontation between Scottie's present and Larsa's past. But she is still a real person, not merely a clue in someone else's scandal. Until either of them speaks, the responsible conclusion is simple. The public does not know the full nature of their relationship. The truth could be quieter or entirely different. That uncertainty is exactly what keeps people watching. Why Scottie's silence became so powerful. Scottie Pippen has never been a man who was afraid to speak when he believed something needed to be said. His memoir, his interviews, and his past comments about the Chicago Bulls prove that clearly. When Scottie feels misunderstood, overlooked, or unfairly represented, he can be direct, emotional, and brutally honest. That is exactly what makes his silence now so fascinating. He could have ended the speculation with a short statement, he could have denied the rumors, clarified that the woman was only a friend, or explained why they appeared together. He could have addressed the timing, challenged the media, or asked the public to respect his privacy. Instead, he gave them nothing. In today's celebrity culture, silence is almost unusual. Most public figures respond within hours, because social media pressure makes every unanswered rumor feel dangerous. But Scottie appears to understand something different. Sometimes responding does not end a controversy. Sometimes it gives the controversy new oxygen. One explanation would lead to 10 more questions. One denial would be examined word by word. One emotional response could be edited into clips, reposted without context, and turned into another week of headline. By remaining quiet, Scottie has refused to play that game. His silence also carries deeper meaning because so much of his life has been narrated by other people. During the Bulls dynasty, Michael Jordan was presented as the central hero, while Scottie was often described as the supporting piece. Team executives debated his value. Documentaries framed his choices. Analysts argued over his legacy. Even after retirement, his marriage, divorce, and relationship with Larsa became material for public entertainment. Now, the cameras are still watching, but Scottie is no longer offering them an explanation they can reshape. That does not prove the relationship is real. It does not prove the timing was intentional. It does not prove he was trying to send a message to Larsa or anyone else. It only proves that Scottie has decided the public is not automatically entitled to every private detail. There is also something strategic about the silence. Each day he says nothing. The discussion reveals more about the audience than it reveals about him. Fans argue about gender, aging, consent, power, revenge, loneliness, and double standards. They build entire stories from photographs, while the central figure refuses to confirm their assumptions. Scottie does not need to move the story forward because everyone else keeps doing it for him. Perhaps he will eventually speak. Perhaps the relationship will be confirmed, corrected, or quietly disappear from public attention. But for now, one of basketball's most famous second stars has somehow become the center of the conversation by refusing to perform for it. After spending decades being told who he was, Scottie Pippen may finally be choosing silence as a way of saying, "This part of my life belongs to me," what this story is really about. At first glance, the controversy seems simple. Scottie Pippen, a 60-year-old NBA legend, was reportedly seen with a 20-year-old woman. and the internet immediately formed strong opinions about what the images meant. But the longer the story continued, the clearer it became that this was never only about one public appearance. Scottie is the entry point because his name guarantees attention. He is a 6-time champion, one of the greatest defenders in NBA history, Michael Jordan's most famous teammate, and the former husband of a highly visible celebrity figure. Every part of his life connects to a larger story people already recognize. Yet the debate would not have lasted this long if it were only about Scottie. The controversy forces people to confront their beliefs about aging, romance, privacy, influence, and gender. Some viewers see two adults who should be free to make personal choices without being placed on trial by strangers. They believe the public reaction is invasive and that celebrity does not erase a person's right to live privately. Others see a significant imbalance in age, wealth, fame, and life experience. They argue that a 4-0-year difference naturally raises questions about power and whether both people can enter the relationship from equal positions. Neither concern disappears simply because the other side exists. That is what makes the discussion uncomfortable. People want to defend freedom, but they also want to recognize situations where influence may matter. They want to respect privacy, but celebrity culture trains audiences to believe that public figures must explain every unusual decision. Then comes the comparison with Larsa. When she dated younger men, including Marcus Jordan, many people described her choices as bold, independent, and unapologetic. She also received criticism, but some of the coverage treated her as a woman reclaiming her life after divorce. When Scottie appeared with a much younger woman, the language often became more severe. Instead of independence, people discussed suspicion. Instead of freedom, they discussed responsibility and power. That difference does not automatically prove hypocrisy because every relationship has different circumstances. But it does raise a fair question. Would people apply the same principles if the genders were reversed? Celebrity stories often function like mirrors. People look at the same photographs and see entirely different things. One person sees confidence, another sees loneliness. One sees a fresh start, another sees revenge. One sees love, while another sees an imbalance that cannot be ignored. Those interpretations are shaped by personal values, fears about getting older, beliefs about relationships, and feelings about Scottie, Larsa, or the Jordan family. The complete truth may eventually emerge, but even verified facts might not settle the debate. This argument is not powered only by evidence. It is powered by emotion and by deeply held ideas about what society should accept. By staying silent, Scottie has left the public alone with its own reflection. And perhaps that is why this story has become so much larger than two people standing beside each other. It is no longer simply a celebrity rumor. It is a test of how consistently people apply their values when fame, age, gender, and personal history collide. The final lesson behind the controversy, the most responsible conclusion, is not that Scottie Pippen is automatically right or wrong. It is that the public still does not possess enough verified information to deliver a final judgment. There has been no detailed confirmation of the relationship, no joint interview, and no clear explanation of the timing. What the public has is a set of images, a dramatic age difference, Scottie's complicated history with Larsa, and thousands of interpretations built around those limited facts. Strategically, Scottie's silence has protected him from being trapped by a rushed response. If he denied the rumors, people would question why he appeared so comfortable with the woman. If he confirmed them, every private detail would become content. If he addressed Larsa, the situation could be framed as revenge. If he attacked the media, the conflict would become even larger than the original photographs. Silence allows him to keep control of what has not yet been revealed. But silence also carries risk. When a public figure refuses to explain, speculation can fill the empty space. Rumors may grow stronger, false details may spread, and the public may eventually accept theories that were never confirmed. That is the strategic balance every famous person faces. Responding may feed the story, while refusing to respond may allow others to define it. The first major lesson is that not every controversy requires an immediate statement. Sometimes waiting protects clarity. Sometimes people need time to decide what deserves an answer and what should remain private. The second lesson is for the audience. Photographs are not a complete relationship. A date on the calendar is not proof of revenge. A confident appearance is not confirmation of motive. Viral theories can feel convincing while still being entirely wrong. People can discuss age differences, consent, influence, and power responsibly. A 4-0-year gap understandably raises questions, especially when one person has far greater fame, wealth, and life experience. But those concerns should be expressed without humiliation, harassment, or pretending strangers know what happens behind closed doors. The comparison with Larsa also teaches an important lesson about consistency. If people believe large age gaps deserve scrutiny, that principle should not disappear when the older partner is a woman. If people believe consenting adults deserve freedom, that respect should not vanish when the older partner is a man. Fairness does not require pretending every relationship is identical. It requires judging people by consistent values, instead of changing the standard based on gender, popularity, or personal loyalty. There is also a more human lesson beneath the drama. Scottie Pippen has lived through enormous success, public disappointment, a painful divorce, criticism about his legacy, and the devastating loss of his son. None of that makes every choice correct, but it reminds us that famous people carry private pain the audience cannot fully see. Scottie's legacy will always be larger than one set of photographs. He remains a 6-time NBA champion, one of basketball's greatest defenders, a father who endured profound loss, and a man trying to understand who he is, beyond the identity the game created for him. Maybe this relationship becomes a lasting chapter. Maybe it becomes a brief moment. Maybe the public eventually learns that the story was different from what social media imagined. Whatever happens next, the fairest approach is not blind support or instant condemnation. It is patience, consistency, and respect for the difference between verified facts and entertaining speculation. Subscribe to the channel, share this video, and hit the like button if you believe NBA legends deserve thoughtful coverage instead of instant judgment. Comment 1 if Scottie deserves the freedom to live privately, or comment 2 if you believe the age difference creates concerns that should not be ignored.